I have been comparing Russia to like a bear. No offense to Russian people, like compare Russia to a bear, Russian regime to a bear. Like this bear is unreasonable, right? So if you want to get along or live with this bear, instead of just put barricades in front of the bear's cave, maybe you should leave some space. Like people are saying that Ukraine better be neutral, like as Finland and Sweden. To leave him some space and try to tame the bear little by little. Is that?
I don't agree with that.
You can't kill the bear, can you? So
and that's the thing. That's why I don't like animal analogies, because Russia is so much more complicated than a bear.
Yeah.
It's a simplification. There's nothing essentially animal-like about Russia, and Russia is complex. Russian society is complex.
Yeah.
What I believe is that this is what the West has been doing, Europe has been doing. It has been implementing an appeasement strategy towards Putin.
Yeah.
Right? He is rigging elections. He is killing journalists. And the West has been closing its eyes to all of this. Year after year after year, they see, okay, Russia is the source of natural resources, gas. Okay, let's build pipelines. Let's import. It's a market. Let's sell our stuff there. And the West has been very pragmatic, like short-term pragmatic towards Russia. And the problem is, it made Putin think that the West is really
soft,
cynical.
Yeah.
So they say that they are for democracy and human rights, but in reality, they're just as corrupt as Putin and his regime. He views the West and Western leaders as basically pragmatic, cynical hypocrites. Yeah, who if they can get cheap resources from Russia, they will continue doing this, and they don't really care about human rights abuses and voting violations. They will make some kind of weak public statements saying, that's what happened during the elections is not good. But essentially, they're not really trying to. I don't know. The West hasn't been doing anything against Putin's regime, and Putin got very emboldened by this, and now and then he thought, okay, I've done so much, and I haven't really suffered serious consequences, so I'm going to invade Ukraine.
Escalate a bit.
And I think he thought that the West will just look the other way. The West will value cheap gas, and the West would not consolidate around Ukraine as much as it did. So, I feel that indirectly it's the appeasement strategy that the West has had towards Putin that has led to this war as well. That's one of the causes. Every historical event has multiple causes. It's not a single thing. So obviously the immediate cause is Putin's decision, and I think he really kind of lost contact with reality after 2 years in a bunker with limited interaction with people. His contacts were dominated by security personnel and forces, and he just became warped
in his power thinking. Or something.
And he just didn't make realistic calculations about the war. And also the people around him are so scared of him that they are not giving him the truth.
It happens to all the tyrannies.
Exactly. It's very, very understandable, and that's what has happened. And now he is stuck. He sees. I think he realizes now that he cannot really win this war, but he doesn't see a way out.
Do you think a nuclear war is a way out to him?
Well, he threatened it. I think for him, it's a preferred way compared to being
humiliated. Yeah.
Or being killed like Gaddafi, dragged through the streets, or
It's a better option. Better option to him.
A better option for him is to go out with a big bang. Absolutely. And like he said it in 2018. Everybody thought he was joking, but he said, he brought up in one of his public addresses, he brought up the topic of nuclear war, potential nuclear war, and he said, well, we will go to heaven as martyrs, and they will just die like dogs, essentially. So he has this mentality of a jihadist.
Oh my God.
In a sense.
Did he say that a war without Russia is not worth living in?
Yeah, he said that as well. Yeah.
Is that the right context?
Yeah. But basically, he's so convinced that I think he has a messianic complex. Like he feels that he is really making Russia great again, and Russia depends on him, and Russia is essential for the world, and that's why for him it's unthinkable that Russia would be destroyed. And for him, it's preferable to destroy the world rather than allow Russia to be defeated.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand. And it's complicated. I guess none of us would like a result like that. So what do you think about the war right now? How are we gonna end this war? In what way? I think it's very complicated. And I think the West. So right now, Putin is really cornered. He doesn't have many options. He just continues the offensive, and more Russians are dying right now than throughout the war. More Russians have died than Ukrainians, and he's being more indiscriminate and ruthless, and he will continue on this path until the system breaks altogether, and maybe there's a palace coup, and he is killed. But I think it will be very difficult because he surrounded himself with very loyal foot soldiers who basically, like Putin is keeping all the generals and all the elites exactly at a remove. He trusts the people who are safeguarding him. His bodyguards are his most trusted people. He in previous years he's appointed them as governors to various regions because he really trusts those people right next to him. So I think it will be really difficult to just kill him, dislodge him, and he will continue with this war until he sees a way out. And I think he is not capable of. I don't think he's capable on his own to get out of this because he's I don't know how mentally capable he is. I think the West can do something, and the West can really not just focus on sanctions, but define a way out of this. And the way out of this would be for Russia and Ukraine to have peace talks, bilateral peace talks. That's the first condition. They have to agree on terms that are mutually acceptable to them. If EU or the United States try to be in the middle of those talks, they will not work, because Putin will. Putin doesn't see Ukraine as an independent agent. He sees Ukraine as a puppet of the U.S., of the West. So he needs to be forced to negotiate directly with Zelensky, but also the West needs to say that, okay, well, we've imposed all these sanctions on Russia. We will start repealing those sanctions, lifting those sanctions, based on the following conditions. And there has to be a path. Russia has to commit to democratic reforms. Russia has to commit to fair elections. Russia has to commit to all these things, like transition of power. Putin has been in power way too long. When he originally came to power, he was very vocal about saying that he's not going to stay more than allowed 2 terms. So he should have left in 2008. But then he forced the changes in the constitution, and then he keeps on changing the constitution and changing the laws. He needs to be shown a way out of this. I think one possible way is Russia is supposed to have a presidential election in 2024. If Putin and the regime, they commit to democratic reforms and fair and balanced and independently monitored elections, then the West could start lifting the sanctions and potentially promise, like, if the elections happen properly, then there will be some investment made into Russia. The elites and the Russian people, they need to see that, okay, the West is not against them, the West is not against Russia itself. The West wants Russia to be part of the global community and be a partner, a reliable, trusted partner. So the West cannot just simply use a stick to scare, because you going back to your analogy of the bear, you're not going to make the bear submit with a stick.
Right.
It's just not going to work. So there has to be incentives together with sanctions.
And a carrot.
A stick and a carrot.
Yeah.
And there is, I think it's possible. The West is capable of designing a whole strategy of handling Russia and encouraging Russia to set on the path of true democratic reforms.
Yes. But one thing is for sure. One thing is for sure, that Putin has to get out of this equation. Whatever happens to Russia, he has to get out.
Yes, but it needs to happen in a democratic way. So for the changes to be long-term, a revolution is not the solution.
Right.
An uprising is not the solution.
Never a solution.
It will result in too much violence, and even if it succeeds, there is a high risk of
even worse guy coming to power.
Like a revenge. There's a term. Like those forces within society that feel that they were pushed down with force, they will gather force themselves, and eventually they will rise up and overthrow whatever new government there's going to be.
Right.
So it has to be really, the best changes are the ones that are orderly changes, that are democratic changes, and Putin needs to be allowed to exit gracefully, with dignity out of this. I think he has an opportunity. He can still. He destroyed his reputation right now, but. Do you think he has already destroyed enough reputation? I think he is scared that if he gives up power, he will just be killed or shamed, etc. But I think the best way out of this is to really give him guarantees that personally he will not be harmed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And those have to be.
Like
proper guarantees.
Peaceful and smooth power transferring. Or
Russia needs and the world, I think, needs a peaceful transition of power, because if Russia has so many nuclear weapons, right? If the regime collapses and Russia breaks up into multiple, it's going to be a mess. Do you want terrorists?
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. So. There are literally like tens of thousands of nuclear warheads, and the potential impact of a failed state, the size of 1/6 of the Earth, is just unthinkable. It's going to be so bad. All those bad actors who are against the West, they will find their way into Russia and buy up or steal the military equipment and the nuclear warheads, and the whole world will be in a very bad state.